World Wide Web. Welcome back to the Hangin with Web Show. I'm GW Pomichter. Thank you so much for logging on, tuning in, however you got here. You clicked on a link or pushed a button or tripped and you hit the space bar on your keyboard, and that's how you got here. I don't know how you got here, but I'm glad you're here. So do me a favor. If you're over on YouTube, hit subscribe so you can come back over and over again. If you're on Facebook, hit the like button, hit the follow button. Get notified whenever we have new content coming out, because we're going to have content coming to you every single day on HWWS WebTV. This is the Hangin with Web Show. We are hosting Media Day today, and please welcome to the studio author, artist, Mr. Cristian Aluas. Yes, Cristian, how are you today again, sir?
I'm doing well. And yourself?
We're hanging in there. We are kicking off what we hope will be a wonderful media day. Cristian, you are the author of It's a Living, Surviving as a Freelancer in the 21st Century. I like that. I like that because, you know, recently there's been a lot of talk about the shifting economy, and I mean, and it's extended into goods and services and other places. I don't think people quite realize how prevalent the quote gig economy is in the arts, and we've been doing this. We've been living in a gig economy as artists for a very long time, way before they were doing it for drivers with Uber or you know, delivery people or whatever. We've been doing this in the arts community for a very long time. How long have you been working as an artist, and what made you decide that you would start writing it down? What the secrets to success were?
Yeah, well, these are my secrets to success. And I want to make it clear that It's a Living is unlike other books in that, you know, I'm not telling people that they're going to be millionaires or anything. You're going to make a living that you can be passionate about and you can sustain yourself, survive, do well occasionally, and really kind of balance freelancing with your natural passion as a creative entrepreneur or professional. So I started out in the gig economy in 2002. I had studied animation and creative writing and art history in college and university respectively. I worked in a few studios, animation studios, and then I had this crazy idea to just be an artist, quote unquote. And then I struggled for about 4 years. But in that process, I learned that I could bid online. And so initially I was just trying to update my website, and you know, I couldn't really afford designers because I was so broke. I was just showing artwork in cafes at the time. And that was where my mind was. I thought I was going to be like Picasso, and I was doing paintings, and then I found this website called Scriptlance, and I realized that, hey, if I put together a little portfolio, then I can just get jobs. And the trick was that I could have gone back to the animation studios, but at that point I kind of burned all my bridges. I said, like, screw you guys, I'm leaving, you know, I don't need you anymore. And so I had too much pride. I just kind of like thought, you know, I got to make it on my own. Mm-hmm. So even though that was extremely lucrative, and I could have put my tail between my legs and went back. So I started bidding online, and you know, at the time in the early 2000s, it was kind of the end of the tech boom. Some companies were going under, but there was a lot of activity, and a lot of the jobs that I was getting were mascot logos, a lot of web design, which I had to learn my own. I had to develop my own web design skills. So I learned HTML coding and a little bit of PHP. And certainly I use my animation skills to do Flash animated websites and pages and little videos, which were very popular at the time. So that's kind of how I started. And the great thing is, I want to give you just some statistics about the gigs, the gig economy. Currently, there are 57 million Americans that are freelancers.
Hmm.
of some sort, and about 45%, the majority of that group are creative. So they're like, filmographers, designers, photographers, visual artists, comic book artists. A lot of those are illustrators.
Well, I think a lot of
Yeah.
people kind of confuse the arts, because I think when they look at an artist, particularly one that's working for themselves, they see, they see the creative content that's generated, whether it's us doing video, whether I'm putting out a new book, or you're putting out an animation, or you're putting out a book. People look at that and they see the creative side of it, and I don't think a lot of people realize that this can be and is in fact a living. That this is,
Yeah.
that the artistic process is also a very entrepreneurial industry, in that if you're going to make it in this industry, you can be the top 1% of your game and then get hired for the 9 figures somewhere in big studio land. But that's the top 3 to 1% of the creative arts professionals. The rest of us are doing it 1 gig at a time, 1 book at a time, one commission at a time, and but working professionally at it. That's there's a huge gig based profession in the arts. And I think when you quote that fact, you have 50 million Americans working in the gig economy, 40+% are creative artists.
Yeah.
That really, it shows you, because the rest of them are all scattered through multiple industries, whether those industries be transportation or small gig related
Yeah.
businesses, but 40+% are creatives.
Right. Yeah. The other ones are, like temp work, a lot of, file management and administrative help. But yeah, 45%. And that's based on a survey done every year. Last year it was done of 6,000 freelancers, 6,001 to be exact. So it's a large sample size, and it's available online. I quote it in my book. One thing that I wanted to mention about that, you said, GW, that it's a lifestyle, and those are actually very important aspects to me. Certainly when I was writing this book, were the lifestyle aspect of it, because to really succeed, and everybody classifies success in different ways, but for me, success is to be able to do what you love and not make compromises, and in terms of being a jobber, depending on the politics in a work environment, like a job environment. So I like that control, and that was actually kind of what made me want to work for myself. So in terms of lifestyle, I devote a couple of chapters to just your regimen every day. I think I get a little bit more out of shape as I get older, but and or certainly a little bit lazier. But I certainly promote like exercise every day for up to an hour. I eat a strict diet. I have like 2 meals a day. They're both big. I have breakfast and like a late lunch, and then like my late lunch is like, let's say 4 or 5. And then I continue working up until like 11 or midnight easily. But I don't eat anymore, so I do like intermittent fasting for productivity sake. And then I network. I certainly used to network when people went out, but people don't go out anymore.
Yeah. Well,
So,
that was what I was going to ask you. Here we are in 2020, and I know for us personally here doing the show, when I'm not hosting the show or producing and distributing the remainder of our shows on the channel, I'm also a writer. This has been, the 2020 has been an interesting year for writing, because I have more time than I've ever had before to write and to focus in on things. But in terms of doing the rest of the show, it's been a challenge because so much of what we do depends on getting this set out into a public place where I can sit down with artists and filmmakers and creative people. For you working, again, like you said, a large part of what we do is who we meet along the way, because we're going to need those contacts, both as, for assistance when we need it. We also need those customers. How has 2020 treated you? And what have you learned about your particular freelancing in 2020 and how you've had to adapt?
Well, that's a great question. And to answer that, my lifestyle hasn't changed much to some extent, because a lot of people ask me that. And, I work from home. This is my home and my background. And so I work from home, and I've kept a very somewhat strict, but I don't, I don't torment myself, but I keep a strict schedule and this, a very consistent schedule day to day. So, nothing really changed. But the significant thing that did change and the way I had to adapt was, for example, I moved to New York to be able to network. And when I lived in Las Vegas before, and I produced a short live action film based on one of my graphic novels called Big Boss comic. And then so I moved to New York, thinking like, I'm going to network and write and produce a feature. I wrote a feature. I've even done readings with actors and I've met with producers. And then this year was going to be like one of those incentive years to really push for getting that off the ground. And then I had to pivot and totally change that.
Yeah.
And the way I changed it personally, and that's something that every artist has to be able to have to build themselves up in a certain way to be able to adapt very quickly. So, so the way I changed was I used to have an art school in Canada, Masterpiece Art School, and there was a brick and mortar, and then I just simply closed it because I moved. And it was very successful. I quite liked it. And then I still offered some online classes. So now I reignited that. And I opened an Instagram. I've been recording new courses. So I've recorded 3 new courses that are on Udemy. So those are my own personal IP. And that's one of the things that I always recommend to freelance artists is for every job that you do for a client, you should spend the same amount of time on your own intellectual property. So to some extent, I sometimes feel like I feel less ambitious, although I work very consistently and I work kind of long hours, but it's not really stressful at all. So like the amount of time that I now spend on quality projects for clients is somewhat minimal often, I'm not making millions, but I'm really like doing very decently.
Yeah.
And I managed to spend the same amount of time, sometimes gambling on certain, entrepreneurial projects. Other time, I know that like the courses were very lucrative in the past. And I know that even when I was very inactive with the courses online and promoting them, they were still bringing me residual income while I was freelancing. So,
well, and I think this particular year has been the year for especially a lot of newer freelancers or a lot of newer creative artists who are just branching into making this their living. We have a lot of hobbyists, and we love you guys that are out there doing this on the weekends and whatever. But when you take that transition and you make that step, I think just like Cristian said, you take that step thinking, okay, 2020 is my year. This is now I'm making the leap. Now it's going to be gangbusters. And then of course something happens like 2020. And you find very rapidly that you learn how to pivot. You learn how to adjust and to accommodate, what you want to do and what you're passionate for with a new set of rules. And, 2020, we hope the rules are temporary. We hope everybody gets healthy and safe very soon. But we've had to learn how to do a new model, and we're going to have to learn again when life comes back how to pivot again. So I think that's a very important part of what you're talking about and what you talk about in It's a Living is learning how to adapt. Because you have to, if you're going to be a gig worker, especially in the arts and entertainment industry, you're going to be constantly adapting to a changing industry. A decade ago, what we're doing here now online, this kind of interview, was reserved to CNN and guys with very expensive satellite connections.
Yeah.
We couldn't have done this then. And had somebody said to us, "Hey, you're going to have to do that for the next 6 months," we would have been like, "Oh, well, that's it. Close the door. We're done." But in today's world, our industry is continuously evolving and changing. And if we're going to be successful and we're going to make a living, again, success is defined by so many people in various ways. I tend to fall into your category. I can do what I'm passionate about. I can do it every day. And I don't have to worry about doing something else in order to sustain it. And that to me is success. And every person I'm able to help along the way, or everything that we're allowed, that we're able to do to expand along the way, that's a bonus. That's people wait for their Christmas bonuses. I get mine every day when an artist like you comes and says, "Hey, guess what? I just did this thing after the interview." Bonus for me. We were successful in that way. So. So what do you have now? You, in addition to the work that you're doing, in addition to publishing It's a Living, which we dropped a link for, I believe, over in the chat. So guys, check that out. What is your current passion project? What are you working on right now?
That's a great question. Well, I wrote this book, and I am working on an audiobook. I'm editing it, and I'm doing that myself, which is a passion project, to say the least.
A whole different set of skills, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I've learned film editing in animation school and all that, and I've done audio editing for a lot of little art films in the past. So, but yeah, my passion project, I've been researching this last half year on, I haven't really told people, but I've been thinking about serializing either a graphic novel or a fiction. So I've been doing a lot of research on that, and I've been making notes on an outline, and actually I've written one outline. So it's like, these are my works in progress, that, and the courses, the online courses. I have pretty much, I'd like to say a short list, but it's a long list of like courses and subjects, and a couple of outlines that I have to go through to record and edit. So it's really like, that's my new passion project, is to reignite the online art courses that I've done in the past through Masterpiece Art School. And, I've taken on a couple of students as mentoring. So I got one client from Upwork that I meet with every Friday, and he's working on a webtoons, and I've been, talking through his ideas, and he has a day job, so he doesn't want to give that up.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how do you manage your time? And I kind of, I'm his accountability coach to some extent,
Awesome.
and he's got a certain level of writing and drawing skills. So, and I take a lot of workshops each week. Like, 2 weeks ago, I took one with a TV showrunner. Like, I forget her name, but like she's run some big shows, famous actress, kind of supporting actress. And then last week I took another course on, sorry about lagging, but a course on like story ideas and outlines.
Awesome.
And things like that.
Oh, story. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. It is part of, I think, any downtime, if you will, between projects is always learning to be better
Yeah.
creative artists. I mean, it's the one thing that we're always going to be doing if we want to be successful is continuing to hone our craft and hone our skills every single day. So the fact that you stay busy with your own continuing education while helping other artists to continue their education, there's a lot of time in there to have to balance back and forth. I know. But I'm actually It's a Living, when we started doing the research here before we interviewed you, hit the top of my to read list. So I'm looking forward to it myself. So guys, check out It's a Living, Surviving as a Freelancer in the 21st Century. There are links in the chat, and we're going to put links in the description over on YouTube. So check that out, please. We are coming up against our time here with Cristian. And I want to thank you very much, Cristian, for sharing your time and your journey with us. We're going to go ahead and we're going to wrap the interview portion of the show. Hang out for a second, and we'll get back here in a minute. We want to thank our partners and friends at Famous Faces and Funnies, our good friends at Krypton Radio, our good friend Josh Bauer at JBauerArt for all of the art that's on our set here. We want to thank our good friends at Brevard Film and Talent for helping to make us a little bit of a filmmaker while we promote the show and we promote our artists. And we want to thank Mommy and G Creations, Kim and Baby G, who are putting together our merchandise for us. Thank everybody who has supported the show, and thank all of you in the chat right now. Alfred Pennyworth, Kyle Nunez, all of you that are out there, Terry MacGyver. Thank you guys so much. Remember, guys, stay tuned in, stay logged on to see who we're hanging with next.